for today's spectators, and quite a good turnout of teams for this men's relay. 17 in all entered, which matches the total in the Olympic Games, and the great British team are in there for those fans watching on British Eurosport. Jason Sklenner, the strongest of the skiers, will be taking leg number 1. He'll be handing over to Mark G. Hugh Pritchard taking leg number 3, and Mark Walker has come in for leg number 4 instead of Mike Dixon, who's effectively retired but is there just to help the team out in case they need a 4th runner. Points absolutely crucial in this race because they're trying to stay in the top 20 of the World Cup rankings. Well, Russia are down in 6th place in the Relay World Cup, and I'll go through the relay standings. We saw them just before the break, but it's quite a tight situation. Norway, wearing number 1 as number 1 seeds, really only under threat from the team in 5th position, that is Germany. And the Germans down in 5th as they failed to finish one of the earlier rounds this season. But the worst result is taken away from the overall result at the end of the year. And so Germany effectively losing no points, and if they can win today, it forces a situation where Norway will have to finish in the top 4. Sweden, they'd like to get a good result here with Carl-Johan Bergman taking their first leg. They're perhaps their best skier, Henrik Forsberg, not in the lineup today. So Germany call on the services of Rikko Gros yet again, the 3 times Olympic gold medalist in the relay, 3 times world champion in the relay events. He's starting first. The Norwegians have gone for a slightly changed team. Ole Einar Bjorndalen is not in the lineup. In fact, neither of the Bjorndalen brothers are, and it's Stиan Ekkhöff who will take Norway's first leg. There he is on the far side wearing the red suit on the right-hand side of the picture as you look at it. France are in there, but they've got a weakened team. Hargay takes their first leg, the man who's come out of retirement this season, having given up in 1995. So we'll wait and see how he gets on. The French, who've had a mixed season, they were delighted to take the bronze medal in Salt Lake City, but remember, they are the world champions, so some people were expecting slightly more. I think for them, the bronze was effectively the best they could hope for, with Germany and Norway just too strong on the day. They did well to beat the Russians down into 4th place. Looks like Stиan Ekkhöff, the youngster from Norway, has taken the lead, and he's certainly a star for the future. He's been kept under wraps a little this year. They don't want to race him too hard too soon. Only 22 years old, and Ekkhöff certainly seems to have that classic style. He looks as though exactly like Frode Andresen on skis. Doesn't go quite as quick, but very relaxed, very smooth. There he is out the front, controlling the pace of the race, and that's a brave move for a 22-year-old, and certainly going ahead of one of the old men of the tour. 31-year-old Rikko Gros in 2nd place at the moment. Jules Marguet wearing number 3. That's Rikko Gros. You'll know the German suit well by now, but glorious sunshine. It is 7 degrees, and it's going to get a little warmer as the day goes on, so the track's expected to soften, and the early runners getting the best of it, I think, as they work their way out of the stadium, and the steeper the hill, the more the snow will cut up. So I wouldn't like to be taking the last leg. That honour for Norway has fallen to Halvard Hannavold, and Germany once again calling on Frank to take leg number 4, despite the fact that he had a pretty poor run, not well by his standards anyway, down in 10th in the sprint event. Rikko Gros, in fact, finishing deputy 6th, having missed 3 targets in the standing position and 1 in the prone. So Rikko Gros will be a little bit nervous, and won't be looking forward to the pursuit event tomorrow, where he starts 46th and is going to be a couple of minutes behind the leaders even before he crosses the start line. Well, that gives a good indication of how steep these hills are, and it is a long climb out of the stadium, and plenty of space, though. Good wide tracks here in Lahti, a venue used for the Nordic World Championships last year and 10 years previous to that. So plenty of investment has gone into the facilities here in this part of Finland. Well, just a run down the teams. Well, we've got the Norwegians. We know they're the top seeds, but they have to finish in the top 4 to secure the Relay World Cup trophy for this season. And you would have thought on their past performances this year that was going to be quite easily achievable. They finished second, third, second, and then they've won the last 2 relays. They won in Antolz, but the likes of the Russian A team and the German A team were absent on that occasion. But they did take the Olympic title with some style. But their main man, Ole Einar Bjorndalen, rested for the 3 races still to come in Holmenkollen. And the top 3 men in the World Cup have all decided that it's better to rest than to race in this relay event. 4 World Cups to go on the individual side of things. Well, if you're going to fall, you certainly don't want to do it in front of your home crowd. And Finland's Vild Räikkönen going down, just a little unlucky. Someone skiing over his, and he's lost 7 or 8 places as a result of that. But Räikkönen, a good shot. He's a quick shot, and he could find himself back into the top 3 or 4 after the first prone shoot. Austria taking the lead for the first time, and it's Christoph Suman who's pretty quick. He won the sprint event in Osbly. That was a surprise, but he showed incredible speed there to finish in front of Henrik Forsberg, who looked as though he was going to win his first ever World Cup. But Suman has turned on the pace, and he's broken this field apart, and only it looks as though the French have gone with him. Certainly Stien Ekhoff of Norway has decided not to match the pace of the Austrian. That's Latvia wearing number 12. And looks to be almost identical suit to that of the Austrians. Not quite the same, but don't be confused by that. Austria are wearing number 2, having had some good races this year. They did win earlier in the season. They won the event in Pokluka, the second round of the World Cup this year. And then it's been 4th, 5th, 6th ever since then. So the second fall, and believe it or not, it's Vild Räikkönen again. Extraordinary stuff. Well, maybe we'll get another look at that to see what went on. Here we go. Well, no one around this time to obstruct him. Maybe he's put his skis on the wrong feet, but Räikkönen getting a bit of a pounding as he works his way around, and 2 falls in front of his home crowd. He won't be happy, but the thing he'll be most concerned about is whether either the sights are filled up with snow or that they've taken a bit of a bashing and put him off target. So we'll wait and see whether Räikkönen has suffered as a result of that. So they're in corresponding to their number, and as you can see, it's Austria and France first to settle, with Norway just 7 or 8 seconds down. Nothing too significant, but no surprise to see Ricco Gross settling early on for Germany, and he's the first to strike. France have missed 1. Germany 2 down, and rattling through the targets now. Ricco Gross, 1 to go for him, and he should claim the lead. Germany, the favourites, have gone ahead. Norway, first target has missed, second has gone down. So the sights, where are the finish? Räikkönen still to settle. But Germany are going to be first from the range in this early stage. That's a familiar scenario. Norway finally get them all down, but 10 or 15 seconds lost, maybe a little bit more, and Ekhoff is going to have to turn up the pace to get back on terms with the favourites. 6:59 the time for Germany, 2.9 behind for the Belarusians. That's a good start from them. They've had a pretty poor season by their standards in the team events, usually where they excel themselves. And Great Britain, well, a disaster for Jason Sklenar already. 1, 2, 3, 4 little dashes on the right of the target. And not quite sure what's going on there. That's the Russians also having trouble. They're right down there on the penalty loop. So, and there's Jason Sklenar going through. Doesn't look too easy on the skis at the moment. But that's a disastrous shoot for the British team, and just what they didn't want. So the top 8 teams after the first shoot, very early days, only 24 seconds separating the top 8, but it's Germany who take the lead, 9 seconds ahead of Belarus and Sweden, their main rivals some way behind. To the first shoot, and in the second group behind I can see the French suit, and the Norwegians are there in 5th position at the moment. The Swedes have dropped from 3rd down to 4th, but they're still in touch. Just 25 meters or so separating the front group from the chasers, but Belarus have done well to settle into 2nd place. Rikko Gros taking it a little easier on this loop, and there is Suman coming through again wearing number 2. He was the man that set the pace in the first loop and paid the price with missed targets on the range, but he's coming through to the front again. He's going to try the same tactic before the standing shoot. Japan going through wearing number 14, and the Finns a lot of work to do. Their women finished at the back of the field yesterday in the women's relay. Surely the same can't happen to them. Already a big gap between the leading teams. Russia nowhere to be seen at the moment. But it is very tight, just 10 seconds or so separating the top 14 teams. Japan down in 13th position, that matches their ranking. Here come the Russians, a long way off the pace. And a little bit of work to do for them if they're going to impress. It's been an inconsistent season for the Russians, just missing out on a medal in the Olympic Games, but finishing 9th and 7th in the first 2 relays of the year. And Sergei Roshkov, the man from Murmansk, who's been on the biathlon circuit or competing in biathlon events for 17 years now, is the man who's struggling. Austria have moved up into 4th, and they've pushed Sweden now down to 5th place. But the Swedes will be delighted with Carl-Johan Bergman's performance so far. But the 2nd and 3rd legs a little bit dodgy for the Swedish team. Jakob Björgesson takes leg number 2, Tord Vixten takes leg number 3, and then Bjorn Ferry, who's had a good season actually. Bjorn Ferry, he's proving to be one of the stars, and he's certainly got a future ahead of him. He's taking the anchor leg, but the question is how far behind the leaders will he be when he gets to start his run. Good idea of the terrain round here in Lahti. Just little hills, but lots of flat skiing as well. And it does suit those who are very powerful in the upper body. The climbs are fairly cruel, but the flat sections allow those with a slightly lower VO2 to come through if they're strong enough. And Suman would fall into their ranks. He's a quick skier, former cross-country skier of course, switched to biathlon and making a very good job of it. Up at the moment with Rikko Gros, who leads this group for Belarus. It's one of their veterans, Alexei Aydarov, who's on leg number 1. Or was part of the Belarusian team at the world title back in '99. Well, the French have done well, and if they're still in the top 3 when it comes to the last leg, I think they're going to regret giving Raphael Poré the day off, because the French are in a strong position to finish in the top 3 of the world rankings. They've got to beat the Austrians. Now, just a quick rundown on the world the relay standings at the moment. Norway lead with a total of 235, but if we take their worst result away, they lose 43 points, so effectively they have 192. If we do the same for all the other teams, Germany then go into 2nd place with a total of 180. Therefore, Norway must claim 38 points if they want to win today, so they've got to finish 4th and above, and that will be good enough. And that, of course, is assuming that the Germans win. Ricko Gros now 5 out of 5 on his first shoot. And he does exactly the same, so he gets back into pole position and gives the Germans every chance. Now the French having a quick check down the range, but they have all gone down. Gilles Marguet has gone clear, just the same as Ricko Gros. Stian Ekhoff of Norway has shot well. He's missed one again, but hasn't lost much time, shooting very quickly indeed. Alexei Aydarov of Belarus losing 5, 6, 7 seconds at the very least in his shoot. Now watch the times as they come out. Germany leading 3.4 seconds ahead of the French. Norwegians should be in third place. Swedes losing time now. Austria, in fact, claiming third, but only a split second between themselves and Norway. Estonia, great run. They're in 5th place at the moment. The Belarusians moving from 2nd down to 6th. Still up with the leaders in 7th position. They're not out of it quite yet. And Sergei Rozhkov of Russia with a lot to make up for. The last target doesn't go down, though. And so the 5 cleared, but it took 6 shots from Rozhkov and yet more time lost. He really couldn't afford that. The Russians can't let themselves get more than a minute behind, and it's going to be a lonely shoot for Jason Sklenar now at the back of the field. 19th out of 19, and this is not how they wanted their season to finish. Disaster with the prone shoot. Suffered some major injuries this summer, did Jason Sklenar. Never quite got the truth out of him as to how it happened, but a big gash down his arm and losing a lot of blood, and at one stage they thought he was going to lose the use of his arm, but he's recovered and is back racing. Sweden going through in the middle of the field. Japan a little bit further back than them, but it's Sergei Rozhkov of Russia, the man who's out of place, wearing number 6. He should be up with the leaders, but he's lost a lot of ground, and it's Austria and Germany who lead the way. Suman really has worked very, very hard over the race. Gilles Marguet of France also going well. He's just gone ahead of Germany, in fact, now, so he's put in a spurt in a bid to hand over first, and Marguet will hand over to Feriol Connard of France. Gaël Poiret takes leg number 3 for France instead of Raphael Poiret, and Julien Robert takes the last leg. There, in fact, goes Suman. He's made a bit of ground. He's got Stian Ekhoff on his tail. All the men working hard now just to stay in touch with the leaders, but only 12 seconds separating the top 6. This is a good relay by any standards. Japan 26 seconds down, and they'll find their 30 seconds or so off the pace at the end of this first 7,500 meters. They're traveling just a fraction slower. Latvia down in 8th. Finland with 2 falls already. Ville Räikkönen unable to make up too much ground. 42 seconds. He's shot reasonably well, has Räikkönen, but you don't fall in this game if you want to win races, and he's already taken 2 tumbles in, well, that happened in the first 2.5 kilometers. Well, this is an impressive burst of speed from Gilles Marguet. As I say, he's come out of retirement. He raced from 89 through to 95 and was persuaded to start racing again this year, and he's done himself proud. Who is that? Trying to get a picture of Stian Ekhoff. The Austrians just getting in the way to spoil the shot, but why not in these beautiful conditions? Really is superb. 7.7 at the start. It's gone up over 8 degrees now, and I guess it's going to get a little bit warmer as the day goes on. But the sun sinks down over the horizon fairly early on in these parts, So it will freeze again, and hopefully the track in good condition for tomorrow's pursuit races. The races start nice and early tomorrow. We'll no doubt have a promo of their times a little later on in the programme, but it is an early start, just be warned of that. And the conditions will be firm and fast, so we could be in for a treat. The men's pursuit is going to be exceptional, with Raphael Perret will be starting the procession, having won the sprint event, but he's got Frode Andresen on his tail, who had his best run of the year, finishing in second place. Still only 12 seconds separating the top 6, so this one could go anyway. I guess the group of 6 will be cut down to 3 or 4 by the end of the second leg, but the question is, will anyone make a significant break in this leg? Finland, a lot of work to do, starting wearing bib number 8. It's Paavo Purinen, who's perhaps had the best of the seasons amongst the Finnish squad this year. He starts leg 2. Janis Osbolt of Slovenia just handing over to Thomas Klobuchnik, and he's not in a hurry. Just take his time. He's got a bit of space. And the Swedes, who up with the leaders early on, have lost a little bit of ground. Ukraine right down in 14th position at the moment, so they'll be expecting to move up. Not the best of runs by Durkat, and Belenenko is on the second leg. He'll hand over to Ruslan Lysenko, and Derry Zemlya taking leg number 4. But those are the top 8 teams. France with a 1.1 second lead. So amongst the favourites, really only the Russian team that are missing at the moment. We've got the Belarusians, the Austrians, the Norwegians are there, the French are there. The Germans, of course, still up at the front in second place at the moment. And, well, we'll see what happens. Germany have put Michael Greiss in their lineup instead of Peter Sendel, who's been one of the long-serving members of the German team. But Michael Greiss, with some good results behind his career now, has been given the shout today, and he'll be praying that the same doesn't happen to him as happened in Pakluka, when he had an absolute disaster in the relay event, skiing penalty loops, and effectively was it Pakluka? I think it was Hochfilzen, actually, earlier on in the season, but he missed a massive targets there in the standing position, missed 4, and ended up skiing a penalty loop. And really at this level, with so many teams skiing well and the conditions for shooting absolutely superb, no excuses really. And Michael Greiss is there in 3rd position now. Andresen of Norway is taking their second leg. He's moved up into second place, has closed the gap down on the leaders, and I guess he'll take at some stage. Andresen doesn't really know anything about conserving energy. He'll just go flat out. He'll shoot fast and pay the price should he miss targets. But he does seem a lot more settled nowadays. I mean, his prone shooting has improved beyond measure this year. Still a little shaky with the standing, but slowly he's getting more consistent, and certainly the other athletes are getting increasing amounts of respect for him, and certainly recognise him as one of the main threats on the tour. And good to see that Andresen has put together enough good results this year, despite the fact that he hasn't won. He's in 4th place in the overall standings, just behind Ole Einar Bjorndalen, 52 points behind Bjorndalen. 4 races to go, so I guess there is a chance that he could finish in the top 3. But really, the story on the men's tour is all about Rostovtsev and Poiré, who are now only 3 points apart with 4 races to go. And really no room for error. And Poiré with a slight advantage, although he's in 2nd place, he's got a slight advantage because when they deduct the 3 worst results of the season, he will not lose any points, whereas at the moment Rostovtsev will lose 16. So effectively Rostovtsev has got to ensure that he beats the Frenchman in the remaining races, but the bad news for him is that Poiré starts the pursuit tomorrow. So Frode Andrason of Norway will be settling in lane number 1. Wolfgang Perner of Austria, lane number 2. And Feriol Canard for France, lane 3. Ruslan Valiulin of Belarus in lane 4. And down in lane number 5, it's Germany with Michael Greiss. This could go any way. Greiss has been excellent in the individual races, but his shooting has not been good in the relays so far. Germany first to strike with Greiss. Andrason once again missing that first target. It's something he's done time and time again. But Greiss now with a few nerves coming in. 3 misses from Greiss, rushing the procedure. He's got 3 rounds left to clear the 3 targets. Andrason is on to his spare rounds now, and it's Belarus who could well take the lead here with 1 target to go, but it's gone wide. France, though, go clear, and they find themselves back at the top of the leaderboard, having been down in 5th position. Estonia are also going to join the top 3. And Germany with a penalty loop to ski. So have Norway. So the 2 favourites in a little bit of trouble here. And it's 1 lap apiece, so 150 metres for Andrason to ski, and the same for Michael Greiss. So once again, the relay gets the better of him, and Austria are in all sorts of trouble here. They've missed 4 already, got 1 more shot by my reckoning, and 2 penalty loops to ski. What's going on? I think he ejected one of the live rounds, actually. So that is why he's going to get another shot. And it's gone down, so he's found the round, reduced his penalty by 150 metres, but Austria, who've been in contention all the way so far, are now down in a bit of bother. They're going to be outside the top 5, certainly. Germany with 30 seconds down. Norway just 34, so Greiss and Andrason can work together. That will be interesting to see whether Andrason can out-ski the German, and Finland suddenly come back into a respectable position. They're down in 6th position, 44 seconds behind. So France, Belarus and Estonia, the leading 3 teams. They're all tightly packed together at 8.9. Well, there's the leading group, and Belarus have gone through to take the lead. But the chasing group, made up by Norway and Germany, now they were 34 seconds behind, but Andrason seems to have worked wonders on his way up out of the stadium again, and I know that shot to shorten the distance between the leaders and the chasers, but he has certainly reduced that 30-second margin to around 15, and he may well find himself back on terms by the time they come for the second shoot on this second leg. And there are the Finns, who've also come back from the dead. Paavo Purinen having a great run, shooting well, has put Finland back into 6th position. We'll get a time check on their positions in just a moment, I hope. In fact, this is just what we wanted. The 2 favourites to make mistakes early on. builds the tension as the race goes on, gives us a chance of having a sprint finish at the end. We haven't seen many of them this year. All the races just about decided with the last shoot. But do remember, this is exactly the same situation that the German women found themselves in yesterday. Martina Zellner having problems on the prone shoot on her leg, but they came back well with the likes of Martina Glago and Katia Beer having tremendous runs, shooting as well as anyone, men or women, to put Germany comfortably ahead in the end. The Estonian team excelling in themselves at the moment, ranked number 12, but they got a good result at the beginning of the season. They finished 6th in Hockfilsen, the first round of the World Cup, but haven't finished in the top 9 since then. Finished down in 11th in the Olympic Games, which was a little disappointing for them. Bad news if you're trying to follow the progress of the British team. They're still back in 19th position, and the way things are going, they're going to find themselves lapped before too long. So a bad start from Jason Sklenar, missing 5 targets in fact out of the 8 on his first prone shoot, so ending up with 2 penalty loops. So not only losing time before he came to the shoot, but having to ski another 300 meters as well, and those are mistakes that he can ill afford. Ruslan Valiulin from Minsk, the same as Alexei Aydarov, the man who handed over to him, and they've done well to put the Belarusian team in front position at the moment, and they'll have the experienced Oleg Rishenkov taking their last leg. So if he's on terms with the likes of Hannavold and of course Frank, I think Rishenkov will hold his own. Well, here comes Andressen, who has absolutely blasted past the likes of Michael Greiss. He's left the young German for dead, and Andressen is going to come back down just 10 to 12 seconds behind the leaders, and with a chance of still putting Norway into first place. The Olympic champions not out of it quite yet, despite mistakes on the first shoot, but they don't have Ole Einar Bjorndalen taking the last leg, so they can't expect to win from a chasing position, as has so often happened, finding themselves 30-40 seconds behind and coming through to win the relay. But I think it's unlikely to happen today. They will have to give Halvard Hannavold a good position if he's going to stand a chance. Valiulin of Belarusia in the middle of the 3 men on the range at the moment, and he could well clear the first target, but Indrek Tobrelutz of Estonia has cleared the first 2, then make a mistake. Plenty of time for Andressen, but he's made a mistake as well. The second one has gone down. Now I think, well, maybe it's right. Andressen shooting too quick for us to keep up with him, but one more target for him to go. A real opportunity for someone to go clear, and Michael Greiss is going well at the moment. 4 out of 4 for Greiss, and Germany are back up with the leaders, and in fact they're going to go from 4th through to 1st. What a brilliant shoot from Greiss, held his nerve. It was the standing shoot that upset him in the first round of the World Cup. He's all about that, gone clear, and Germany and Norway, having dropped right out of contention at the first shoot in this second leg, are back with the leaders, and in fact they are now the leaders, but we'll get confirmation of the positions. Germany go out as first. Norway won't be more than 5 seconds behind them. Belarusia are in between those 2 teams. And where is Andressen? Is he on the loop? Well, I have a feeling he must be. I have a feeling he must have missed another target, because Andressen has not come through. And there he is on the loop, but that just means he's going to have to step the pace up again. There he is, down in fourth. How much time has he lost? 26 seconds. He's got more time to make up. He had 33 seconds to make up after the last shoot. He's now got 26. France have lost 30 seconds on that shoot, and the Estonians, who had a brief moment of glory, have dropped back down to 6th, and that may be the last time we see them up in the top 3 positions. Well, it's almost a repeat of yesterday's race for the German men. Mirror image of what their women achieved. Zellner missing targets in the pro and then shooting well to retake the lead in the standing. So there are the positions, 11 seconds still, only separating the top 3, but Norway and France should be able to close the gap a little. The other teams still chasing. Italy in 8th, that's about as well as they've done so far this year. Andrasen on the chase again, 26 seconds in fact for him to make up on this last loop before he hands over to Эгиль, who takes leg number 3 for, and as you can see he's in a different gear to the likes of Tobrelutz of Estonia, who really is struggling now, and it also looks as though the French may have run out. It's Feriol Canard taking the second leg, but this climb for the 3rd time has just about blown his reserves. Austria also trailing now, down outside the top 5, and now contending with Globishnik of Slovenia. And Team 15, who, that's Italy, having a good run for them. Wilfried Paulhuber coming through. No Reni Catrinucci in the Italian squad. There is some talk of a problem between himself and the Italian Federation. And that's a matter between them, and they're clearing it up before he will be allowed to race again. But there is a mention that he won't be back in action this year, but we should see him on the circuit next year. Purinen going through for Finland. So after that disastrous start from Ville Räikkönen, the Finns are back on top. And Belarusia in second now. Germany with Michael Greiss. Greiss looks a little tired. He's certainly on his day quicker than the 2 men in front of him. He's lost 30 seconds to the likes of Frode Andresen on the climb out of the stadium. It's astonishing stuff. 1,100 meters, and Andresen has closed 30 seconds. I'm not sure he's going to be able to close much more time. Very, very flat from here on in. It's always the uphill sections where the Norwegian makes his ground. And as you saw on the profile of the course, it's one long hill out of the stadium, one more short sharp hill before they start the descent back down into the stadium. So 6.1 kilometers skied, another 1,500 meters from that point, and the Finns still with the lead. That's a good comeback by them, and Paavo Purinen will no doubt get a pat on the back for his efforts. He's handing over to Timo Anttila, and then Vesa Hayatilahti, who well, he's certainly got it in him. If he has a good day, he could well bring the Finns home first. But I think he's going to have a lead of around 30 to 40 seconds over the likes of Frank Luck, who takes the last leg for Germany. There's Timo Anttila of Finland, who I don't think was expecting to find himself in this position. Эгиль would not be worried. He would have been open to anything with Frode Andresen taking the second leg, but a top 3 or 4 will suit him perfectly. He won't be fussed about that. Yelland, his job is to try and bring Norway in with a lead of about 15 to 20 seconds over Germany, to make the Germans work hard. But the number 1 priority for Norway is to finish in the top 4 today and secure the World Cup title. If Germany win this one, which is still a distinct possibility, then the Norwegians must finish in the top 4. Otherwise, the relay title for the season will go to the Germans. So it's quite a tight affair, and it's very, very tight for positions 2, 3 and 4 as well. with Austria effectively on 161 points. France, with their worst result deducted, have 160 points, and the Belarusians, who are still there in second place, have 159. The third position, in fact, will go surely to one of those three teams, and Russia a little further back, 147, once you take away their worst result, which scored them 28. Norway making great ground, 21 seconds in fact in all gained by Andressen. He did all the work on the way up and gained nothing more on the way back down into the stadium, but we weren't expecting that. Austria, who led earlier on, as did the French, have both dropped off the pace and are going to find themselves over a minute behind the leaders, but just. So that's the halfway stage, and past experience would tell us that at the halfway stage, if you're within 2 minutes of the leaders, you've still got a chance. And cut that back down to a minute by the third handover. So all these top 8 teams have a chance, but you have to still have your money on the likes of Germany and Norway, who are within 15 seconds of the leaders. And the Austrians could spring another surprise. Remember, they did win round 2 of the relay this season. So I guess Norway's question is, what sort of form is Эгиль Yelland on? He doesn't have the skiing prowess of the likes of Andressen and Bjorndalen, and do have to keep remembering that Norway don't have their #1 star taking the 4th leg. Halvard Hannavold, no slouch himself. He's a good shot, but he's not really for this short 7.5 kilometre race. He prefers the longer distances. Svend Fishir, on the other hand, who's taking leg 3 for Germany, won't be fast. He's good at any distance, but he's a very powerful build, and he likes these courses here in Lahti. That's the Estonian team. All seem to be wearing different suits today, so a little difficult to identify. Indrek Tobrelutz going through. And here are 2 of the main chasing teams. I guess the Austrians still believe they've got a chance, but they are a minute behind, as are the French. But the French, it's Gaël Poiret as opposed to Raphael. And Gaël, a good couple of divisions below his brother as far as ability is concerned, but his skiing does seem to have improved. He must have learned a lot off Raphael. And I guess he's just not blessed with the same quality of heart and lung. Siman of Belarusia goes through in first place. Norway have moved from 3rd up into 2nd now, closing the gap from 5 down to just under 3 seconds. So it's slow progress from Yelland. He's not going to be skiing fast enough to make ground, make significant ground on the snow. But if he shoots well, then he'll keep Norway there. Germany will be delighted, and I think they'll still be very confident. Svend Fishir down in 4th, but very much in touch with the leaders, and Fishir on his day as quick as anyone in the range. But it is going to come down to the shooting on this 3rd leg. Germany, ironically, with a little bit of an advantage, being ranked 5th in the World Cup, in the relay standings, simply because it means that they take lane number 5, and they're nearly always away from the main action. Norway in lane 1, Austria in lane 2. Germany so often find themselves in lane 5 on their own without any distraction. And they have shot exceptionally well today, except, of course, for their 2nd leg prone shoot from Michael Gryce, where things went strangely wrong. Siman of Belarusia, the youngest of the Belarusian team at 24, up against Yellann, who had an excellent race in the sprint event on Thursday, finishing 4th. Only 2 places behind his teammate Andrasen, who finished, well, he was hoping he was in 1st place, but Poiré coming through in the closing stages of that sprint event to take a win. And the Norwegian skis certainly running better on the way down into the stadium. That's good news for Hannavold. He'll be delighted to see that. That's quite a significant gap that he's opened up over Simon. Sven Fisher has just got into the slipstream of the Belarusian skier, and coming through, he'll take his place. In fact, he's going to take his place first, because he'll reach his lane quite a few seconds before Yellann. And Fisher usually settled quickly, so there he is down in lane 5. This time he has the company of Simon of Belarusia in lane 4, with Yellann settling in lane 1. First to strike. Could be Norway, likely to be Germany. And it's Yellann who has settled first, and a bad mistake from Sven Fisher, so Germany in a touch of trouble now. It could lose them 10 seconds. Should they miss another target, they'll lose more than that. Yellann goes clear. Belarusia have gone clear with Simon, and Finland have gone clear as well. Fisher clears it at the first attempt, so he's lost 10 seconds, but he's still in touch, and he's certainly strong enough to close that gap down again. This relay is slowly coming to life. It's been a pretty uneventful first half, but with Yellann going clear, Belarusia have kept themselves up in contention. And the Finns excelling themselves. The Finnish women finishing last yesterday in the women's relay, and at one stage it looked as though the men were going to do the same after a terrible start from Ville Räikkönen, but they're up there in 3rd, just 5 seconds down, with Germany, well, as you can see, down in 4th place, but still they won't be too worried. The standing shoot's still to come on this 3rd leg, and if there are still 4 teams in it when it comes to the very final shoot, then we're in for a bit of a treat. The Austrians seem to have closed the gap. They were a minute behind exactly at the handover, and Wolfgang Rottmann, the former world champion in the individual event, has closed the gap a little. It's is it going to be significant? 51, 52, still a bit of a way before the clock stops. Out he goes. He has closed the gap, but it's marginal. 57.5 seconds now. The Austrians have got to close. France, I think, are pretty much out of it. The Estonians going well in 7th place. And a good run from the Slovenian team. That's Marko Dolens taking Slovenia's 3rd leg. Yanis Maritz is lined up for leg number 4, but still I can't. So just over 11 kilometers to go in this men's relay. Final leg runners getting warmed up in the stadium at the moment as the 3rd leg come round, approaching the range for the 2nd time. The first prone shoot has been completed. Norway leading with Belarusia, Finland and Germany still up there, but we're expecting to see Sven Fisher work his way through the group. He'll certainly want to be on terms with Эгиль Yellann when they come in for that 2nd shoot, the standing. Belarusia losing a bit of time to Germany. Finland still there in the top 4, but they'd love to finish on the podium spots today. And it's Vesa Hayatolahti who's a very good shot indeed. Not as good as he was 2 years ago. The consistency has gone somewhat, but Hayatolahti will take the last leg for Finland, and I'm not sure he is going to have any thoughts of beating either Germany or Norway, but he would love to come in 3rd place ahead of Belarusia, who look to be their main opponents for that position. Fisher has certainly changed a gear on this 2nd climb. Yellann puffing hard. I wonder whether he's working too hard for his own good. We'll see in around 3 or 4 minutes when they come in for the 2nd shoot. And suddenly Belarusia from second position find themselves going backwards. Alexander Siman is the only one of those four men who appears to be in oxygen debt at the top of the hill, but here goes Fishер turning up the power as he glides away from Yellann. But we know that Yellann has got good skis, and in fact we know also that the Germans have good skis, so the gap between second and third can really only grow from this point in. Further down the field, the strongest teams who still have a chance of top three finishes. Austria 109 behind. They're starting to lose, having regained some time. Wolfgang Rottmann has struggled on the second climb, maybe starting too fast on the first leg. France in 6, Slovenia in 7. No change there since they came out of the range. The only thing that has altered is the time gap between the leaders Germany and those teams down in 5th, 6th and 7th. Still 3 shoots to go, so it could still go wrong for the two leading teams. And the mental pressure just increases as the race goes on. And certainly the Germans believe in cultivating a man who can cope with the pressure of the final shoot. So it's Sven Fishер who heads down the firing point first to find lane number 5 once again. And Yellann, a couple of deep breaths of air. He does seem to have been working hard to try and stay in touch with Sven Fisher. But the German with a bit of breathing space. He looks well settled. So 4 down before Norway strike, but Yellann with a slight chance because Fisher missing just that one target, the first one dropping low. Sounds like the first mistake for Yellann. Yes, it is. One has missed, so that gap will not be decreased. Germany will keep the lead for now. This must go down, but taking his time. Took a long time to let that one go, and all the while the oxygen debt in the body increasing. But Yellann holding it on just long enough to clear the target. So Germany and Norway, the two leaders still. The gap between them around 10 seconds, maybe a fraction more. Finland go out in third, and for once the crowd come to life, they've enjoyed that. They've been starved of success in both cross-country and the biathlon events for the last couple of seasons. Now Austria perhaps with their last chance. Rottmann. Just goes down. High right with the last shot for Rottmann, but he deserved it because the first 4 shots were impeccable. Right in the middle of them would have cleared the prone target, but Rottmann has closed the gap effectively on the teams in 3rd, 4th positions, but still away behind the Germans who were 106 and seem to be pulling away still from Austria. It's still under 110, so I suppose they have a chance, but really it's all about finishing in the podium positions for the Austrian team and trying to secure 3rd place in the overall World Cup. Remember, the Austrians, the French and the Belarusian teams only separated by 2 points. So whichever one of those teams finishes ahead, then they will claim. And Austria is still in there. And the Austria and the Belarusians still in contention. I think the French finding themselves a little too far behind, so their chance of finishing third overall this year are not looking too good at the moment. But and the Belarusians, the Finns not in contention for a top finish in the overall ranking this year. They're down in 8th at the moment, and they only have 124 points compared to the Belarusians, who have 183, so certainly no chance of them catching, but it would be nice for them to finish the season with a good race on their home track. And at the moment things going pretty well for Finland. The Austrians trying to catch Belarusia. So the last leg, it's going to be Ludwig Gredler for Austria up against Oleg Rishenkov, two very talented men indeed. Rishenkov now 34 years old with plenty of experience. And Gredler's been around for a few seasons as well. In fact, he's 34 as well. So two old men up against each other to see which team claims that third prize overall. I don't think there's much doubt now that Norway are going to be the relay champions. It will take a major mistake from Halvard Hannavold to blow that situation. He's not the sort of man who loses his nerve in this situation, but let's hope I'm not tempting fate there. Timo Anttila. There's the last of the Finns to go. There's Hartalahti having a look into the sun to see whether he can see his teammate, but he'll see Germany and Norway appear quite a time before the Finns come round the corner. Simon now being caught by Wolfgang Rottmann, who skied the first leg very fast and seemed to struggle around the second leg, but has got a second wind on this final leg, so Rottmann making amends on the closing stages, and he'll be handing over to Ludwig Gredler, who's getting ready in the finish area at the moment. Well, Fishel gets some applause from the local crowd. Really, it's still a pretty poor crowd considering it is the weekend, and I think they're going to have to do something to drum up some interest for the years to come. Just take a note of the numbers in the crowd here and compare that to Holmenkollen next week, where we should have a healthy turnout, certainly on the weekend days. The Thursday and the Friday will be a little quiet, no doubt, but Saturday, Sunday should be superb, with pursuit and mass start events on the cards for that World Cup final in Holmenkollen, and the Norwegians really should turn out in big numbers to support their Olympic champion Ole Einar Bjorndalen, who's got 4 golds in the bank. He's still statistically could win the overall World Cup this year, but I don't think it's going to happen. He's nearly 100 points behind Pavel Rostovtsev of Russia, who leads. The battle really between Rostovtsev and Poiré, who's just trailing the Russian by 3 points. And certainly it's going to go down to the very last race, the mass start on the 24th of March, to decide who is this year's champion. In the women's, well, it's a familiar story. Magdalena Forsberg has just about tied up the World Cup. It's not in the bag quite yet, but 2 more good results, and she can relax on the final 2 races of the year. I think that's the way it's going to pan out. Germany have done well to open the gap up over Norway. 29.2 seconds now, with Finland down 58 seconds down. So Norway have, I suppose, got a little bit of pressure. If Hannavold shoots like Ole Einar Bjorndalen did in the individual sprint race here, where he missed 5 out of 5 in the prone, then the Norwegians both dropping down out of the top 3, and then the situation really would be very tense indeed. Still only 3 seconds separating Austria and Belarusia, teams that are vying for 3rd place in the World Cup rankings. Finns 58 seconds behind. Still very little chance of them winning this, but a podium is certainly possible. Good work from Sven Fishер as he comes in to hand over to Frank. Look, the man who's taken so many German relay teams to victory. He's in pole position again. He's got 29 seconds in hand. I think the smart money has to be on Germany at this stage. Now, were it Ole Einar Bjorndalen taking the last leg for Norway, then it would be a different situation, because that 29-second lead would be cut to, what, 10 or 15 by the time they came in for the first shoot. And certainly there'd be a little more pressure on the shoulders of Frank. Look. And I think we may find that Frank Luck can outski Halvard Hannavold as well. But we'll find out in roughly 30 seconds from now. The clock will stop at just over 1:07:10. So Germany go through, and the gap was 29 seconds. Still no sign of Hannavold behind. Good long strides. It's a very distinct technique that Hannavold employs. Never straightens or never brings the legs together. They never get within 2 feet of each other, which used to be one of the teaching ideas. But Hannavold obviously bucking the trend. Beats me how he ever gets the legs to relax in that position, but he's still very, very quick, and he's a good shot. 29.6. No real changes between first and second. Now, the Finns with Hayatalahti were 58 seconds down, and it doesn't look as though Hayatalahti's lost too much ground either. He's skiing well, but losing, what, 3 or 4 seconds at the most. 1:02 now. He's lost 4 seconds, and still there. Should either of the 2 leading teams make mistakes on the final leg. But Hayatalahti won't have been expecting company, but he's got it, because Ludwig Gredler is working hard. He's pulling away now from the Belarusian team. Just 3 seconds separating those 2 at the start of this final leg. Gredler has turned it up. He's into 4th. And has opened up 5 or 6 seconds. We'll get the exact figure in just a minute as he comes through. 1:24, so only 22 seconds separating 3rd and 4th. This is still reasonably tight. By this stage, many of the relays are absolutely secure, but not the case here. So with a 30-second gap, Frank Ulrich just watching on. And 30 seconds should be enough for Frank Luck to prepare himself and complete his prone shoot before the other teams appear. Perfect conditions, still no wind to talk about. The light has stayed pretty consistent right the way through, although the shadows are lengthening. When they come in for the second shoot, it could be a little different. But those last 2 going high right. That one's high right as well, and that is high right. So all his rounds are going high right. Now, one more mistake, and that would make it interesting. taking his time. Well, that's not even close. Look at that. It's a good centimetre outside the prone target. And suddenly, Frank has to make sure this one goes down. Well, that one is just inside, but all his rounds going high right. And I wonder whether he'll get some instructions just to change them. Hannavold with an opportunity. That first miss has cost him. It looks as though his shots are going high as well. Well, maybe the changing light is starting to make a difference. I don't think that's a case of the nerves with Hannavold, but he misses one and he misses an opportunity to close the gap significantly. Germany are out. Hannavold still with some way to go. I think the gap of 30 seconds will be reduced, but not much now. Finland have missed one and given Austria a chance to move into the top three, but Gredler has thrown the second one wide as well. Now, with two missed from Austria, Belarus suddenly have a chance to come back into the fold, and maybe that third position in the World Cup rankings isn't going to Austria after all. Belarus go clear, and they're back into the top three for the first time in 2 legs, having started this race very positively indeed, and they have a chance. Aydarov, Valiullin, Simon, and now Oleg Rishenkov suddenly could be heading towards a podium finish. Well, this is a nightmare for Gredler. You can see he's missed 5 already. One more shot to go. That's gone wide as well. In fact, his shots look to be going high right as well. So everyone going high right. The wind just starting to flutter. It really is very difficult to assess what's going on. All I can do is give you an idea of what it might be, and then we'll have a chat with the teams after the race and find out exactly what they felt about the conditions. But seldom do you see so many of the top athletes missing prone targets, and we did see that Frank grouping was pretty good, but the whole group moved up to around 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2:30, so high right for him. Well, I'm trying to track down the British team at the moment, but I've only got the top 15 teams on the screen, and there it's Slovakia, in fact, down in 15th place, 4 minutes 53 behind. And we know the British were down in 19th and last place, so they're well over 5 minutes behind, and I wouldn't be surprised if they've already been lapped. Haven't actually picked them out as they've come through the range. We'll try and do so, but the news is not good, having had a very shaky first start with Jason Sklenar. But it's Germany and Norway, the two favourites, who lead at the moment. 28.5 seconds still separating the two leaders. Belarus coming back into third. So Frank of Germany going through the 3.6 kilometre stage, just over the halfway, or just about the halfway marker on this final leg. Hannavold was 28 seconds down, having started 29, so really no impression made, despite the fact that he missed one less target. He's cut that now to 25, and well, it's all about that final shoot, isn't it? Surely Frank is going to hold his nerve. Hannavold can't do anything about it except hit all 5 targets and hope that he goes through. That looks like Team 16. Is that the American suit? I think it is. Just check on that for you. Yes. Well, in fact, didn't even recognise my own. That was the British team. Mark Walker going through, not wearing the same suit as the rest of the British team. So Mark Walker getting his first entry into a World Cup relay, and he finds himself 2.5 kilometres behind the leaders. So really this race is all about first and second between Germany and Norway, and third and fourth, with the Belarusians holding the best position of the chasing teams at the moment. Frank Luck, as I mentioned earlier, with plenty of medals to his name already. He's used to this sort of situation. In the past, Sven Fisher has taken the last leg for Germany and made catastrophic mistakes. But Frank Luck, well, he was a member of the gold medal winning team in '94 in the Lillehammer Winter Olympics. He was part of the team in Nagano where Germany secured it. He took the final leg there, and he's been in a massive World Championship relay teams, and gold medal winning ones at that, since 1989. So there aren't many around with more experience than Frank Luck when it comes to taking the final leg, and you have to believe that this is going to go Germany's way. So the coach watches on. Luck just goes through the same old routine, time and time again. And all chances, any chance that Norway had, has been snuffed out. And Hannavold will know now that second is the best that he can hope for. That was a perfect shoot. Frank Luck making up for his mistakes in the prone position. 5 out of 5. Hardly a breath between the first and the fifth. And they just all went down, smack in the centre. And great shooting now. A repeat performance by Hannavold to secure second. That's high right, so suddenly there's a glimmer of hope for Belorussia. And that is extinguished as Hannavold goes clear. So first and second decided with just 2,500 metres to go. Mark Water of Great Britain just leaving the range, but as I say, a full lap behind at the moment. This is an interesting battle for third position. The local team, Finland, with their first miss. Belorussia, well, they seem to be clear at the moment. Not quite sure why Ryschenkov has missed the last two, so 2 misses apiece. This is a close one. Hayatalahti now, certainly the better of the 2 shots over the last 3 seasons, but that counts for nothing when it comes to a tense situation like this. Finland with 1 to go. Belorussia finally get it down now. Hayatalahti must clear this standing shot. It's taking time, it's taking a lot of time, and he's on the penalty loop. So Finland's chances of a top 3 position have gone, and Belorussia have secured third, and they've also secured third in the World Cup rankings for this season. So a good finish from them. Ryschenkov holding his nerve. It was Hayatalahti, the last man you would have expected to be doing penalty loops, but that's exactly what's happened, and he is now fighting to keep Finland in the top 4. France with a slight chance. Julien Robert must shoot 5, and he's got to shoot them as quickly as Frank Luck did. Austria, with penalty loops on the prone position in this final leg, have thrown away their chance, but Ludwig Gredler will want to make up for those mistakes. Yeah, finding it a bit of a struggle in the closing stages. Lots of movement in the upper body from Gredler, and 2 have gone wide as a result. Seems to be falling away from it. Well, big gaps now opening up between the leading 3 teams. 49 seconds between Germany and Norway, with 41 seconds between second and third. So we don't expect to see any changes there. Finland are down in 4th, but they have been on the penalty loop. 1 loop skied by Hayatalahti, and so he won't be able to close that gap on Ryschenkov of Belorussia. And once again, the race decided in the last shoot. Germany really had built up a comfortable cushion. 30 seconds for Frank Luck is nearly always enough. It has gone wrong in the past, but it's so seldom we see him lose a lead like that. So the first 8 teams through the final checkpoint. Just another 2,500 metres to go before they can pack their bags for the night. But still plenty of action coming tomorrow. The pursuit events starting early morning. But no thrills and spills over this last loop, I'm afraid, because the gap between the leaders far too big for anything eventful to happen. So really now just time to speculate on what might happen in the overall rankings in the World Cup. And as I've mentioned a number of times, that it's very, very tight between the 2 leading men. Rostovtsev of Russia, Poiré of France, just 3 points between them at this stage of the season. It's about as close as it was last year between Bjorndalen and Poiré. There you see the positions. Big gaps all the way down, looking to see whether any positions might change. The Austrians will be on the chase. Gredler will try and catch the Slovenian team, who are in 6th. But the Austrians really throwing away their chance on the 7th of 8 shoots. That's where it went wrong. And Frank look now on a Saturday stroll as opposed to a Sunday stroll. If he finds himself in this position tomorrow, he'll be delighted. But he finished 10th in the sprint, so he'll start 10th in the pursuit tomorrow. And he'll be chasing the likes of Raphael Poiré of France, who will start first. But the Frenchman well rested today. And his #1 aim is to finish ahead of Rostovtsev in the pursuit event tomorrow. Bjorndalen has got to do something spectacular and hope that both the Frenchman and the Russian make terrible mistakes on their way round, because I think his chances of taking the overall World Cup this season have gone. And he really lost it with those 5 misses on Thursday in his prone shoot. Thought there must have been something wrong with him or the rifle, but in fact it was just bad shooting. The shots going all over the place. It wasn't the sights and it wasn't the weather. It was just a lack of concentration. So it can happen to anyone. So Frank coming in to give Germany yet another win this season. It's their 3rd victory in the World Cup relay events this year. But they had to win today to have any chance of winning the overall title in the relays. But Norway have denied them, because Norway are going to come in second. They're 45 to 50 seconds adrift. Hannavold has done what he was required to do. But it wasn't without the scares. They found themselves on the penalty loop. Michael Greiss getting his first ever relay victory. And skiing his leg pretty well once he'd got past the prone targets, which gave him a few problems. Hannavold coming in then for Norway. You can see where it went wrong for the Norwegians. Frode Andresen skiing 2 loops, but having said that, he skied fast enough to make up for those mistakes, and still brought Norway home in first place after the second leg. But Égil Yellann and Halvard Hannavold unable to hold on to that lead. The Germans coming through once again to deny them. Germany get 3 wins in the relay this season. Norway finish with 2, but overall their performances have been more consistent. And I guess you could say in the end that Germany paying the price for one failing to finish in Pekluka when Marco Morgenstern collapsed on the very final leg. And also they put a B team into the race in Antolz the round before the Olympic Games. They finished 6th on that occasion, and Norway came through to win that one. So Germany, for me, probably the better team over the year, but circumstances dictating that in fact Norway end up with the title for the 2nd year in succession. But they'll be glad about that, and they'll be quite happy to take home the checks that are involved. But it's the Olympic relay that they're really chuffed with, having secured that title for the first time ever. The shadows lengthening here in Lahti, and it won't be long before the sun drops below the hills to the west of the city. And the temperature will start to plummet again. It's been exceptionally warm. It's the temperature at the start of the race 7. It got up to about 8.5 degrees and has already started to drop. And it will be down to below freezing in the next hour and a half or so. And the tracks will they'll be pressed first as soon as the last runner is in. The snowcats will be out. They'll press the tracks in preparation for the pursuit events tomorrow. And then they'll be hoping for a fairly heavy frost to solidify the course and keep it in good nick right the way throughout tomorrow's races. But with the pursuit and the mass starts, the condition of the track really isn't too much of a concern, because obviously they all start very closely together. So Austria, it looked good at one stage. They had the lead earlier on, but in the end it all went wrong, and Ludwig Gredler in third position at one stage on the final leg, missing targets on the prone and finding himself on the penalty lap. And that was the end of their chances of winning or finishing in the top 3, and certainly ended all chances they had of finishing in the top 3 of the overall ranking. So a disappointing end to the relay season for the Austrians. They've still got 4 individual races to go, and who knows, maybe Mesetic, Rotman, Gredler, or maybe even Suman can come through to win one of those, just to salvage something from the latter stages of this 2002 season. So that just about wraps up our